Hello YouTube, and welcome to a brand new Unity 3D tutorial. So, we're breaking away from everything we've been doing for a while because I want to attempt something cool which a few people have actually asked for. This series originally started off with me and my friend on YouTube, Darwin Colgan, talking. You may have heard his name often, me and him talk quite a bit. But he was showing me this new Disney Infinity game what's being released. It's like that Skylanders game, you put figures on a block, but it's got this cool feature where you build your own world. And if you can't see where we're going with this, we'll keep listening. But basically, you walk up to something, press build, and then drag things down, create a world, then go and play in it. So like, they put a football down and built a stadium out of it and started playing. There's this giant football, it's bigger than most of the characters. So I thought it'd be really cool, not the football option obviously, but to make the building option. And this series was later expanded by some people wanting a role-playing game type of thing, like Command and Conquer, Starcraft, where you build bases and everything. So this will give you the option for it, kind of. So I'm going to get the main bits out of the way. So first thing we're going to do is quickly get over it, like the items and the texture, make the actual building, and then we're going to try and make it put down. I don't want this tutorial to be over 30 minutes, so if it gets near there I'm going to cut it off, but if not, all good. So let's get straight into it. So the first thing we're going to do is build the building. Really simple. I was thinking, there's a million ideas going through my head what I want to do, but this is basic. I want to do something straightforward and basic, so I'm going to do a cage. I don't know why. We can eventually put something in it, maybe, I don't know. So we're going to go cube, and I'm just going to set it to around 25, 25, 25. So it's a big cage, it's not a little one. So there is no chance you can pick this up. Unless you're talking about Devil May Cry, where he picks up giant swords. But hey. So it's not going to stay here, I'm just positioning it here. So I found this texture, which I put in item icons here, called cage. And I thought it looked really cool. It's a PNG, links in the description. Drag it on, boom, look at that. Looks awesome. So materials, it automatically adds it, and we don't need that one. So I'm going to make it transparent, so diffuse and drag it on. That's not the right one. That is. There we go. So a giant cage, and just as a test I want to drag something in it and see if you can actually see it, because then if you can, we can put something cool in it. So if I put this on top of this temple here, can you see the temple through it? Yes, look at that. So that means we can put like a little bird or a little demon flying around in it. As you can see, that's madness, it's cool. So what I'm going to do is rename this to Cage Building. And I'm going to drag this into our Models Prefabs folder. And I'll make a new folder called Buildings, and I'm going to drag Cage Building into it. Just like so. So now we can have like 50 of them. Hey, it's cool. So we have that. Now we need to create the item for it. So the item is really simple. I'm just going to copy one of these. So duplicate this log, drag it across, and we'll call it Cage Building Item. Just like that. So I'm going to go back to our item icons and use the same texture. Why not? Boom. So there's our item cage thing. I'm going to copy the name, and I'm going to go and open up our character in collisions. So let's open it up, collisions, and I'm going to scroll down, and don't worry about all this, I have found a better fix for it. I will be implementing it soon. So I'm going to duplicate all this, and cage building item clone, so I need them both on. The reason I've not called them both cage building is otherwise, if you then walk into that cage, you'll pretty much pick it up, and that's not what we want. So yeah, so this needs to be number 7, because that's what number it was. So if we go back to here, I'll show you. There, it's 6, 7, energy tank is number 6. So we can go back to that, so that's saved. So we can go back to our character, miss scripts, item stats, and we're going to add some more to it. So energy boxes here we've not actually added yet, so energy box, blah blah blah, comma. So here we can now put cage into it. So we're going to begin adding it, so we'll type cage, I should probably call it the same, so cage building item, that does not say item. That says, yes, there we go. So cage building item, it's all the same. They don't have any, but the character has. It costs 175 to sell. And we'll say cage building item is a magic box which is waiting to be placed. That says places. Placed. Perfect. So we've added it to that. We can come back to this and refresh this one. Boom. So once it actually saves it, then we can refresh it. There, now we've got the two things in. The textures should automatically be added once we try it, so we can go up and click that box and it should work fine. So as you see, everything's added. Let's go and click this box and it should hopefully add it to our inventory. Oh, go away, surgeon. I don't want to die today. Boom, so we've got the cage. Perfect. But only thing is yet, we haven't actually made it placeable yet. So we've got it, but we need a button that says place, so a new type of item if you wish. So it means adding it to our inventory, our item add stats. So item add stats here, click. So what I'm going to do is actually make a new one. So weapon maybe, but then I'm going to duplicate it and actually say building. So if it's not a building or not a weapon, it'll be an item. So, not an item, that makes no sense. Yeah, that is, yeah, I was right. Haha. So we need to, yeah, we do need to edit all of these, but since most of them are the same, we don't really need to add many. So I'm going to find and replace everything in that line, and I'm going to replace it with false again, just like that. So basically another false. So that's just added every single one, and that messed up. No wait, go back, we need that. So this can be number 5. There we go. But this one, our cage building, does need to be 1. And this one here needs to be false because it's not a building. So, right, perfect. So now we've got an ability to check whether it's a building or not. So what we need to do is on our inventory add stats, we need to begin implementing it into it. So we can duplicate this. If weapon equals false, then do that. Else if weapon equals true, do that. But what about if none of them equal true? Then we can put if building equals true, then it needs to add it. Because that'll be a... In fact, what I'll do is I'll stick this up here first. So it searches whether it's a building or not first. So if it's not a building, it'll search for it an item. If it's not an item, it'll be a weapon. So that'll work really well. So this one needs to go to item stats again. So this is a lot like our items, but we one day might add its own class to it. So if... That's the wrong one. That one. So if building equals true, search the items. If weapon equals false, search the items. Blah, blah, blah. It works a lot like, but the only difference is we need a button that says place and not equip or nothing, as the items do. So here, it'll do the exact same thing again. So in fact what I can do is copy this, and if weapon equals false and building equals true, in fact we can put or. So if weapon equals false or the building equals true, it'll add it as an item. So here we can do the same again. So every time weapon equals false, add it. Every time it equals false, add it. So inventory grids.arraygrid.is weapon equals false. So that means we need to improve that grid. So we need a new one that says is building equals true. But it doesn't need to equal true unless building equals true. So or that. Then here we can put if. In fact we can put it below this one. In fact yeah, here. If building equals true, which it does, then add that, otherwise it'll skip it. So we best put that here as an else. Else false. So just a quick extra onto it. So if weapon equals, well, if building equals true, do the exact same thing you would for an item, but if the building equals true, then set it is building, else make it false. So quick turnaround, and that should be all that one done. But we need to go and add is building to our inventory. So sorry this is jumpy, like I said, I've got to try and fit it in 30 minutes. All this we have covered before though, all I'm doing is literally adding a new item. So inventory GUI here, and we'll scroll down to our class and is weapon, duplicate to is building, and then is building again, is B, duplicate the thing just to add it to the class, which we've done far too many times. Boom, so we've now got a brand new one. But we need to still tell it in the right places. So if it's a weapon, it's not a building, so we can tell it not to be one. Perfect, so that'll come down, read it, it'll work fine. So, that should give us the ability, but we need to actually show the button what we want now. So where's the equip button? That's what we need to find. Equipping here. So if grids.value is more than 0 and grids.value.isWeapon equals true. So there's our equip one. So I'm going to duplicate this entire box and we'll call it placing. So I've got a feeling our actual place script's just going to be in here, so yeah. So if grid value is more than that, but is building equals true. Perfect. So we don't need equip left or equip right, we only need one of them. Why has that one got more than that? It's got a print statement, never mind. So here we'll type place. In fact we'll just type play. In fact put down. I don't know, I prefer put down. So I'll bump it across, say, to 200. I don't know why, it makes it look a little bit better. And then in here we can simply type print placed. Well, choose your place. Because we've got a lot of things to do. We've got to move the camera, we've got to play around with it. It's okay. So we're going to create a new function for it as well. So duplicate it, place to world. And we'll give it an ID as well, yes, because we do need one of those. So placing, choose your place, it is ID 7. Don't worry about it for now. In fact, wait, yeah, don't worry about it for now. Get rid of the parameter. Boom. So here we'll print choose your place, and then camera choosing. Can remove them. So, because what we've got to do as soon as we click this, the camera needs to either disable and a new one needs to appear, or it needs to move itself. But we're going to try it first before we do anything. Just a small error, just get rid of that else there, and then that should work. That was on inventory add items as well. So we got another error, 164. Put a semicolon after you print. I'm messing up because I'm kind of rushing. I apologise. Let's try it, it should work fine now. We should be able to run up, collect it. So our playwright equipment is not liking the fact that we've added a new boolean to it, so it's pretty obvious why. But yeah, so we come down and adding item is weapon. So we'll type here. In fact we don't even need it, we just put false. Basically what it's saying is adding new item and new function, what we're calling here, has 3 parameters, building, weapon, ID, whereas we originally only gave it 2, so we need to add one more to it. And our last one is for our space script 56. If you don't follow it, you don't need to fix this error, but if you do, then simply just add the word false to it again. Because, a little inconvenient, but we do need it in. So we can play, collect it, and then we should be able to press place, and it should print those 2 statements. Then we can begin moving the camera. So I'm guessing we better make a new camera, but we've also got to make that camera controllable, so you can move that camera with your mouse or something. So we click this box, boom, we have a cage, and we can click put down. And as it printed it, I have no idea because it's freaking out printing these statements, what we shouldn't have done. We get an error, 107. So what's on line 107 of our collisions? It is nothing to do with us, so that's okay. And then, where is it? This is incomplete. So I retried it and I got rid of them statements, and as you can see, works fine. Don't worry about all these bit errors. Don't worry about them. But they print now. So now we've got to play with our camera. So easiest way I was thinking is we just simply put a character above the character, but we make it its own person so it can move around. So we're going to go game object, create other, and camera. There, perfect. So I'm going to drag it, and I'm literally going to rotate it on the X axis 90, and then drag it all the way up. So we should be able to pretty much see our game. Right, so what I'm actually gonna do is you'll probably think this is weird, but I'm gonna add a spotlight to it in a minute. So 200 far, so we're not loading game data what's not needed. There. So right there, so we've got maximum view, we can see loads of stuff. Where do we want to place it? Round about there, click. So that'll work really fine. So what I'm going to do is add a spotlight to this camera. And the reason I'm going to do it is because in that case, then what we can do is shine it down, and then we always have a light and we can always see what we're looking at with the camera. So obviously that's the wrong type, so game object, create other spotlight, and we'll drag it all the way up to the camera. Make it 000, but what I'm going to do is set this range to about 100, and then we may have to intensify it to 1000. So as you can see, it's definitely going better. Spot angle, there. So maybe 1000's a bit much, so 800, 700, 600. I just don't want it to be too intensive, that'll do. So now, wherever the camera is, we'll be able to see a spotlight, so we can see where we're placing things. Makes sense, really. So we'll say camera is now renamed to build camera. So what I'm going to do is disable this camera, and that'll be it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to stick it inside the character, just like that. So it's part of him. But when we move around, what we're going to do is as soon as we click that button, the cameras quickly switch on and off. So one's true, one's false. So it'll be, if we just look at that, as if it is going, where's our camera? Main camera, off, and then it'll be going build camera, on. So it'll switch like so. So our character is actually, I can't see him. Where's our character? He's all the way over there, so that didn't work very well. So, but yeah, you get the principle. So I'm going to set this x-axis and the z-axis so it's directly above the character. So now, if we switch the cameras, you can see the character right in the middle, right there. So we'll be placing, say, there or there. So, let's switch the cameras quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to disable the objects, I'm going to disable the camera property. Because in that case, then we can actually go in and GameObject.find again, and it'll work really fine. I'm going to disable the audio listener off the build camera, and the GUI layer, and the flare layer, because we don't want any of them. What they basically do, the GUI layer lets you see GUI objects, so time and everything. Flare layer lets you see some flares, what we used in the space tutorial. Audio listener lets you listen to music. We don't need two of them. It might sound cool because the sounds will be from far away, but yeah. So we also don't want the spotlight on, so we can disable that, just the light property, and we can go in and manually turn them on. That sounds weird, but okay now. So if GUI button not put down is true, so if we press it, we type GameObject.find build camera dot get component camera dot enabled equal true. So it turns it on. And obviously we have to turn it off false when it calls the function and it's activated everything. So we'll just put it down here, false. But then we can also duplicate it and we need to turn the spotlight on. So we'll type build camera spotlight. Otherwise we'll get confused with what spotlight we're having. So this has an underscore in it, I just saw that, and underscore again, and then this can be build camera spotlight dot light dot enabled equals true. So it'll turn them both on and it'll switch the cameras, but the other camera's still on at the moment, so let's disable it. So here will be false, and instead of build camera we'll be going for main camera. So it'll switch the cameras really quickly, like so. Click click. So we can put this here, note them out, Control Q, bring them back, and we'll say false and true. So we can test it now. So we clicked an item, click it, it switched cameras. hopefully. So we collect the cage, we run away because that guy's shooting us, it's kind of annoying. So we click cage and we click put down, boom. So it switches. So obviously we'll have to hide our inventory and we can still move and rotate and stuff. So I want to set the rotation out, but what we'll do is we'll now get the cage object to follow our mouse, and we've already done this for our maze game, so it's even easier. But that's the first step for it to follow our mouse and be put on the floor. So it should be relatively easy, I hope. But first thing I'm going to do is come back up to this build camera, and I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis at 0. So if we turn it back on, it will literally face the character, hopefully. Yes. So as the character moves forward, the camera should stay level with him, as you can see. Perfect. So now we need to use our inventory item script here to spawn the cage or whatever item we want to spawn, and then we want to make it follow the mouse repeatedly, which we can't do in here because it's only a one call thing. So if it's only a one call thing, where do we put it, tell it to follow the mouse repeatedly? Well, what happens if we activate another script what's on it, then just destroy it once we've done? Seems to work. So what I'm going to do is make a new script down here, unless we've already got one, which we don't. So I'm going to go here, right click, create folder, building, and we'll call it a mini game, why not? And in here, right click, create JavaScript, object, follow mouse. So we don't want the object's Y position to really move once we've placed it. So because the Y position is up and down, we might want it to follow the hill curves, but we might not be able to do that today. So I'm going to open up this object mouse, and whatever this is attached to needs to follow the mouse. So the X and Y axis of the mouse. So really simple. So let's start. So first thing we need to do is create the Raycast. We've done this before, but if you didn't watch it, it doesn't really matter. What a Raycast does is basically send an invisible line, you can make it visible if you like, from one point to another point, and you can get all sorts of data from it, like the location of it, the position. You can actually get the object's name. It's cool stuff like that. Really low processor power, so you can use as many of them as you want. Really cool. We might implement them into some more stuff one day. But anyway, going into it, we'll type var, and we'll just call it line. You can call it whatever you like. And then it's going to be array, which is Raycast if you didn't know. And we're going to say, so the first point we want it to is the camera. So we need it to be from the centre of the camera. So if you look at a camera, not this. So this is where we'll be looking from. The centre of this thing here, right there. The centre of that will be firing array. That's where we need it from. So in our script, we're going to type camera. So obviously we need a variable called camera. Var camera game object. So that's just to store our camera in. We'll do it differently. Game object dot find build camera. The reason I can't use a variable is because we're storing it in a prefab. The variables mess up if you remember. So game object dot find dot build camera dot, and then this is a new one we're going to go. We're going to go camera. So you don't need to do get component. I just prefer doing get component, but you don't have to. And we're going to put dot screen point to ray. And what that'll do is whatever point you're on your screen, so say I'm up here, which is 0, 0, x-axis with my mouse, it'll send that to the Raycast. So that's where the Raycast will think it actually starts from, and then it'll fire down. So don't forget, everything we see here is the centre. That's our little view input, that's what we see, so the mouse was up in this corner. So if we zoomed into this, pretty much that's what you see. So our mouse is up in this corner, the ray is going to start from there, then we need it to go pretty much to the centre of it. So we're going to type bracket input.mouse position. And what that'll do is pretty much everything I've just explained. That basically transports our position to the Raycast so it can fire. So the line's actually fired now, the ray point's actually fired. So we need to actually set the distance of it, so how far is it going to go? Otherwise it'll go for infinite and infinite and infinite and it won't stop. until Unity crashes. So we're going to type var new pos for new position, because we're getting the position of the line kind of thing. So we'll type vector 3 equals the line dot get point 50. So what this will is, this will create a new raycast from your camera. If you think my explanations aren't that good on it, I'm not actually 100% what's to call it, like I don't tend to use them. I'll try to stray away from them if possible. I'm not that educated with them, but I know how to use them. So it'll create a new raycast from our camera, and then this new pos will set the point, so whatever that end of that point hits at 50 distance, it'll get the position of it, so XYZ, and then what we're going to do is set whatever object this is to that new position. So this dot transform dot position equals new pos. So line creates a new raycast, so beam from wherever our mouse is straight down, straight in front, literally straight down, and then this new pos will, whatever that line hits at 50, so it can be going and going and going, but whatever it hits at 50, it'll save it as a position, then store that position to this character. So whatever we stick it to, it should spawn it. If you don't understand, don't worry, just go along with it, it'll work. So we're going to find buildings, cage building, and we're going to stick object follow mouse on it when it lets me, because I'm dragging the wrong thing. Boom. And I'm going to disable it, and you'll be like, well, why are you disabling it? You'll see in a minute. In fact, we don't need to disable it. You're right. Clever, YouTube. You don't even have to talk to me. But we will need to destroy that eventually. So we're going to come down here to our inventory GY, and we'll type here, well, we need to spawn it really, so we need to find it from the resources. So we're going to type var get building, and this will be a game object, and it will equal to resources dot load. And now where we're going to load it from? Well, basically it's from prefabs landscape buildings. So prefabs landscape, is it landscape or landscapes? Landscape, then buildings, and then we put a slash plus, well, end it, and then we pretty much put whatever this is up here. So it'll get the name of it, and then it'll search for that object. So the name is currently the wrong thing because we typed the wrong thing earlier. So item starts, it's not cage building item, it's cage building. And I believe it doesn't need an underscore either. Just like that. So that'll work fine now. So as soon as we click it, it'll spawn it, but it won't spawn it yet, it'll just create it. We've now got hold of it, we've got our hands on it. So we need to refresh our MIS scripts before we start, otherwise it'll crash. Boom. So now it's called cage building, it'll go and fetch cage building. So let's spawn cage building, so var spawn building, and this will equal to instantiate get building, and then what position do we want it? And now we need a position of it. So what's a good position to put? Well, our character's always on the floor, so we could put it with our character, but we don't want it too close to the camera, otherwise we'll get an error. We could do a raycast and get the distance of the floor and everything, but we're not going to do that yet. So I'm simply going to type gameObject.find character.transform.position. Yeah, so it'll literally spawn on top of the character and we can move it. So one thing I am going to do though is disable the collider on it for now. Just make it a trigger. So it'll go through the character, it doesn't matter where we put it, then as soon as we click it drops. That simple. So transform.position and then quaternion.identity. That's not identity. That is. So it'll spawn the building. Perfect. It'll place to world, and once it places to the world, we do need it to literally change it. So here, as parameters, we'll type building game object, and place to world will just say spawn building. So we're transporting the game object through. So here we can type building dot collider dot is trigger equals false. So it turns it on fully. And I'm also going to add a rigid body to it in a minute. So we'll type rigid body dot use gravity equal true. So then it'll fall down with a bang as soon as we click it. It'll look more cartoony-ish, because our game's very cartoony at the moment. So we'll come down, add a rigid body to it, boom. So, turn gravity off, and now, that'll spawn it, so we need to test it quickly, and hopefully I can get the last clicking done before we basically have to end the tutorial, because it's nearly 30 minutes long. So I'm going to go over here, collect it, and I'll come back in a minute. So I collected the item, and we're going to click put down, boom. You can see we have it, and perfect, look at that. We can now move it around with our mouse, and we can place it. So let's just see where it is in our world, because otherwise... So as you can see, it messed up where it's placing it. The y-axis isn't right at all. So what we need to do is get rid of it, and we need to go back to our object script, which is cage building, object follow mouse here. And it's set an XYZ position to it, which is not what we need. So we're going to type vector 3, tar3, and then new position.x, and then for the y, we don't want that. We need game object.find character dot transform dot position dot y, so it's on the character and not us, and then new position.x. So, well, z. What that'll do is make it follow the mouse on x and y, well, x and z, so left, right, up, down, but for the depth perception, it'll be completely different. So I've collected it, and this character's going crazy, it's annoying, this enemy. So we click it, we click put down, there you go. Obviously we need to add some better to it, it's not following the mouse perfectly, because the Y position. So we'll just place it down there, yeah. So as you can see, it's not following the mouse completely, we need to boost the position up a little bit, so maybe the X and Y times 2. We could have a look at next time, but that's all we're going to do for this tutorial. I didn't manage to fit the clicking in. Sorry for the long tutorial, sorry for it being bouncy. I really hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. Please join my Facebook group. If you like the idea, thumbs up please, it always helps. And I'll continue next time. I'll see you next time.